Okay, it is 5:01. We are going to bring this meeting to order. This is the Gallatin Municipal Planning Commission meeting, work session meeting for August 3rd. We're going to jump right in. Number one on the agenda is public comment on agenda-related items. If you are here wishing to speak on any of the items on tonight's agenda, please come forward at this time. State your name and your address. Yes, sir.
I think we're number one, Amber, Pendle, and Drew.
Yeah, so if you are here representing one of the items 2 through 14, I'll call you forward whenever that item comes up.
We're number one.
You're number one.
Yeah.
Also,
Okay. Well, are you the accessory structure?
Yes, sir.
yes.
Okay, I'll call y'all forward whenever we go to that item.
Okay.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Seeing none, I will close the public comment and we'll move to item number 2, Shifano Residential Accessory Structure. Charlie.
Good evening, Commissioners. Charlie Peary, Staff Planner. The owner and applicant is requesting approval of a site plan to construct a 70 by 30 horse barn and a 40 by 60 detached garage with a lean-to on a 5-acre lot zoned A for agricultural residential district located at 1670 Long Hollow Pike. The applicant is proposing to have 2 accessory structures. The shop with the lean-to is going to be on the eastern side of the property, beyond the 12-foot required separation from the house, and then the horse barn further in the back along the eastern side as well. As far as lot coverage goes, these 2 proposed structures are well within the lot coverage with a couple hundred feet to spare. These 2 structures will have some stormwater measures that have to be put in place because the cumulative square footage is over 800 square feet. Staff had minor comments, just having some of the parts of the site plan to be labeled a little more. Staff did have some concerns about whether or not this private road or driveway would expand a little bit based on the driveway extension. Then this is the proposed architecture for that accessory structure and for the horse barn. Thanks.
Thank you, Charlie. Engineering, do y'all have anything to add?
Just to piggyback off of what Charlie said, 2 things. Yeah, it's going to require a stormwater infill permit because it's over 800 square feet. And then the other issue that we have is with the driveway, we're not exactly sure that existing driveway is in a cut bank. So if they're going to widen that, they'll need to get with TDOT to modify that. So just kind of when they come up here, if they can kind of let us know what they're doing.
Okay. Awesome. Y'all can come forward at this time.
So if it's easier to not extend it per se.
Can you please state your name and address?
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're
Drew
good.
Shifano, 1670 Long Hollow Pike. Closer to it. Drew Shifano, 1670 Long Hollow Pike. If we could widen it, that'd be fantastic. If it's, a big issue, we could just kind of modify to where we go into.
We can just kind of extend it off of here per se and kind of, modify it this way, a little easier. And we're just going to gravel it, FYI, not concrete for now.
Okay. Brian, are you saying that they're, so if they widen it just there, that's not up at Long Hollow Pike, is it?
It'd be the edge of the asphalt that would be the issue with the TDOT permit. So if they're going to just tie off their existing driveway, that's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. And then did staff explain to you why y'all are in front of us with the accessory structure?
No, not really.
Okay. So it's because the architectural elements of the exterior of the accessory structures don't match the accessory or the exterior of the home. And so whenever that occurs in our current code, it has to come to us for review. We're working on updating that with our new code that should be adopted here in the next month, I think. But this is a formal process that that several others, just like y'all, have had to go through. I believe that they have in their staff report that there's multiple other structures in the vicinity that are and similar kind in nature. So this one should be fairly simple. If y'all haven't yet, with the, I know they brought up the comments about the stormwater measures. If y'all haven't yet, I would suggest getting with engineering staff to discuss how y'all can meet those requirements. With the infill permit, it should be fairly simple to do. There's just a formal process you have to go through with them as well. So, did y'all have any other questions, or
No, sir.
No, sir, I don't think
is
so.
there any other questions from commission?
I was just going to say that if you do want to widen the driveway, then go ahead and get the TDOT permit. I don't think we have an issue with it. It's just not our authority. And I don't think it's a very arduous process, but if you're going to,
It would be much easier, yes, ma'am.
I would think if you're going to this kind of investment for your property, you may as well try to go ahead and do it like you want. And I don't know that TDOT would have no issue with it, but
They
all
should-
you can do is ask, and so.
They shouldn't, but we don't have jurisdiction over that road because it's a state route. So that's why you have to go through TDOT.
Okay, thank you so much.
Anyone else? Okay, Charlie, will you get with them and make sure they understand the resubmittal process and make sure that if they are going to make any updates to their submittal, they do so by next Monday?
Will do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. We'll see y'all back in a couple of weeks. Next, we will move to item number 3. This is Shoulders Townhomes Preliminary Master Development Plan. Kimberly.
Good evening, Kimberly Atley, staff planner. Yes, the owner applicant is requesting approval for a PMDP Shoulders Townhome. It's with 49 townhomes. It's located north and south of Shoulders Street, east of Woods Road. It's zoned R6, which is a high-density residential district. It is 3.7 plus minus acres on this. We have, on the preliminary plans, there's a lot of information that needs to be put on the front sheet. We're missing some data, site data information, general notes, some general information. I did speak with the applicant, and he is aware of all things that we need to work on, and we'll be talking about some stuff. I'm going to jump right over to here to the current plan right now. They are trying to enhance this area. Currently, it is a townhome, or a trailer park, so they will be putting the 49 townhomes on this area, and it will be on both the north and the south of Shoulders. So I can figure out how to do that. There it is. So a portion of the north and a portion of the south side. We do have the architectural design, which we really like a lot, and we hope that this is probably what they put in here, but they will meet the 70% brick and stone. This is the layout for the 49 townhomes. There are a couple of things that we need to look on here. To start with, the homes on the Shoulder Street need to have the front facing to Shoulder Street. So these need to be flipped. They can have two fronts, but we definitely need the front facing Shoulder Street. Also on this, we'll have to have sidewalks that will meet with the public sidewalks. So they can either put two for each unit, one for each 2 units, or one for each unit. But they do need to have a connection, and also a connection between the two buildings, or between the buildings, which is 12 feet. They are meeting their requirements, 12 feet. All the other source is the connections between the public sidewalk and their sidewalk, so their sidewalks are. Some of the bigger issues that we're looking at right now is the townhomes on the north side right now. They may lose 1 or 2 of those townhomes because they cannot back out on the Shoulder Street. They're going to have to create a new parking, in the rear on the side. But he knows that he's going to work on that. He'll come talk to you about that as well. Other things is that the road, because of it's problematic from the corner to the entrance, so they will need to realign the road here. Engineering will talk a little bit more about that as well. It'll line up to the Liberty Baptist Church on this end right here. Other things are the buffer yards. He needs to work on a little bit of more buffer yard information and get that to us. There's a stub out right here. Right here, the stub out, which will give them access to be able to back up. Now, one of the things that I did bring up to him is that we have had a lot of concerns with parking and with townhomes. He is meeting his minimum requirements of 2 per unit. but we would like to see an overflow of parking. That's all I have.
Okay, thanks, Kimberly. Engineering, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, we got a few things. I don't want to go into all of them, but the highlights would be to move the drive on Woods Ferry Road down to line with the existing church driveway, so there's not a conflict there. We also have asked for them to continue the middle street all the way down to the southerly property line in case of future development there. And then, like Kimberly said, the parking on Shoulder Street, that's not going to work. That's a super wide driveway, basically. So if
Yeah.
they can flip that around, that way people won't be backing out onto a main street. And then sidewalk shown on Shoulders and Bales for the northerly lots there as well.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, is there a representative for this project present?
Thank you. Brian Hamilton with Nashville Civil. I've gone over the comments with Kimberly. Thank you so much. And don't have issues with any. No, we have to kind of tweak some parking and some drainage and some things like that.
Okay.
So,
Are you on board with flipping the units to where they front?
I kind of thought
Shoulders.
I thought that would be a comment.
Okay,
We had a different layout prior to submittal during the pre-app, and then it was a comment to move them to shoulder. So kind of thought it was going to be double front.
okay. Any questions or comments from the commission? Yes, sir.
First of all, it looks really good. I had a question, though, on these units, these buildings that are like 8 units together, are they on one continuous level pad? Are they all the same elevation, all 8 units?
Yeah, so there's not a great deal of topography here. It's not sloped that severe. So ideally, that would be the case.
The reason I bring that up is what is the distance, the separation between 2 8-unit buildings? It looks like maybe just a 5-foot side yard setback, so there's just 10 feet of space between them.
12 feet. Correct.
12 feet, okay, pretty tight, though. And that's why I asked if all the units in a string of 8, if all of those units in that string of 8 units are on the same elevation, because if there's much topography at all, you're not going to get proper drainage between the two if you have to have a 6 and 10 fall. So I'd want to see a topo map when we see this back in a couple of weeks. Well, actually, I guess there is. I can barely see the gray lines. I'll study that real close. But I think drainage between the units is going to be a real problem. This has been a problem for a lot of units out there. But a solution to that is if all of the units don't have to be at the same elevation, if your architecture allows you to step down with grade, then it's not a problem.
Yeah, there's an opportunity for some of that. There's basically a high point in the center, draining to both sides. So.
Are you, sorry, John,
No, I guess if I could put numbers to it, if you're only going to have 12 feet of space between the two and you want a 6 and 10 fall to the center swale, I'd say that you couldn't have more than a foot to 18 inches of elevation difference between this pad of 8 and this pad of 8 over here. Would you, you're
Yeah.
an engineer.
Yeah, and it'll probably need to be piped because we got a sidewalk between the units now.
You got sidewalk between the units?
Well, it's a comment from.
oh, they're wanting,
Staff.
I think planning's wanting them to add a sidewalk.
We're asking for that, yeah, because
Right.
the parking is going to be in the
Yeah.
rear. So that way, you know, if people want to park in the rear and then have,
Walk to the
like, their
front.
visitors want to come up to the front of the house, they're going to need to be able to walk on a sidewalk.
Then you really need to look at this topo carefully because this drainage between these tight units is a problem in some places, especially where you have a 3-foot elevation differential between one house and the next, and there's only 12 feet between them. There's no way to make it drain properly. So I'm not nitpicking it. I'm just pointing out a potential concern.
I have 2 other comments. One, I guess, is more of a question, but do you see any concerns with meeting engineering's comment about aligning the drive on Woods Ferry with the church across the street?
I mean, it's just going through a detention area, but, you know, at this level, I think we can design around that.
Okay, and then two, I would, as Kimberly mentioned, it looks like your parking requirement, like, on the money right now, but I would really look at providing extra parking for visitors. That's been pretty standard in the majority of the townhome projects that we've seen come through here.
Yeah, I've got an idea, there's a couple spots I might be able to do that. We'll look at that. Yeah.
I did have a comment, and I think Kimberly, you might have touched it. Is there a sidewalk to the mail kiosk, or was that one of your comments?
It's not one, but it is there is a drive. It's right here, the mail kiosk is. There.
Okay.
It drives
So
around it.
there's nothing to cross the street there or anything? I mean, I know it's a private street, I think, right?
You know, it could be moved over to the grass area, I guess. If
Okay.
it needed to be.
And then even those units on the north side of Shoulders, they will also be using that same mailbox kiosk?
Yeah, they could have their own, I guess. I'm not sure. It's, no, they would not be using the one across the street. So they need theirs over there.
They would use that same mailbox?
No, they would need their own across the street. Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm going to redo that based on the comment about parking, and so we'll probably lose a unit or two
Okay.
over there.
Okay.
Okay.
And I did like that it lined up with West on Shoulders, West Avenue, so appreciated that your driveway lined up there. So just wanted to point that out.
Okay, any other questions or comments from commission? All right, seeing none, see you back in a few weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 4, McCain Station amended PMDP.
And I have to recuse myself from the next two items.
Okay, Brad?
The owner and applicant request approval of an amended preliminary master development plan for McCain Station to change the open space and add vehicle sales on 11.41 acres zone PGC, Planned General Commercial and MRO Multiple Residential Office located north of 386 and east of Big Station Camp Boulevard. We can see the new proposed PMDP here. We'll get into, let's see, here is some of the open space they're proposing, as well as here, here, and here. And I'll forward to, all this open space was concentrated here in the previously approved PMDP. That area is now the proposed vehicular sales in this area. This is the recently approved memory care facility. We did see an issue with the TVA easement. It passes over the silhouette of this building. We'd like that addressed. We had asked that this open space be programmed. There is a small parking lot here, so we'd like to see some definition as to what they plan to do with this open space. And this open space here to the north, it does need some kind of defined access to it for it to be used. There was previously on the FMDP for the memory care a drive that connected down to where this parking lot is. That has been removed on this PMDP. I believe engineering will have some more to say on wanting that still possibly connected over to the car dealership. And we'd like to see some more labels. Several things have been approved, as like the Walmart, things like that. We'd like to see more of those labels included on this PMDP. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Brad. Engineering?
Yeah, so like Brad said, we'd like to show the Martin's Barbecue driveway. That's going to be an issue with us. Sweetbriar Way is classified as a collector, so we're going to pay really close attention to these driveway spacings on this plan. desirable is 185, or I'm sorry, minimum is 185, desirable is 235. So we'll let the applicant address that. Once those are shown, we can kind of see how this spaces out. Let's see what else. They are changing their overall stormwater concept, so we'd like the applicant to kind of address when they're going to take a look at that and how that's going to come into play with the approval of the FMDP. And then finally, on the memory care, we're not interested in that little group of 6 parking spots. Probably would get rid of that. And if they can try that memory care driveway somehow into the Mazda dealership and make that work a little bit better, and then offer like trailhead parking or whatever they're doing with that open space, that would be better.
Okay. Is there a member present from the applicant?
Wes McGill, civil engineer. Just to bring up a few things that Brian was talking about. So the detention area, so right now the open space, there's about 6 acres there. 90% of that is a detention pond. And so what we've done is we've kind of done some high-level studies and actually more detailed studies now showing that we can reduce that pond area pretty significantly. So what we've done is taken that 6 acres of open space and kept it the same amount of open space, but just spread it out some. And then instead of it being either stream buffer or detention pond, we've decided to add some usable open space in there, which we agree we'll show some concept plans there for what that could look like. And then additional open space up at the north or plain north of this page here would be accessible through the residential area there. So there are a few things that we've been working with engineering on since we got the comments. I feel confident that we're going to be able to come to a resolution on that with the driveway spacing. So we're working with Brian and with Aaron on that right now. We would like to keep the memory care facility would not be able to tie into the Mazda dealership because that's going to be a controlled access. It's going to be gated on that side. So what we're proposing to do is on the ungated side, we're going to keep just some parking there to access the open space for the visitors or people staying in the hotels. But from a safety standpoint with the memory care facility, they do want to keep it to one access for the safety of the residents there. So we will have fire truck turnarounds, making sure everything's still accessible by hose links and everything like that.
And the fire department's comfortable with just one access?
They are.
Okay.
Yeah. But other than that, we're in agreement with staff comments and expect to be able to address all those.
Okay. Any comments from the commission? I think this is a creative use of the site. I like how y'all have redistributed some of the open space and made it a little bit more usable than what it was previously. I would be interested to see the restaurant layout on this PMDP, but outside of that, I think just step in the right direction. Was there any issue with the TVA easement?
Not yet, but we've started some coordination with them, and that I think is just something off with the rendering.
Okay.
So we're not encroaching in that at all.
Okay.
And then our driveway
I didn't
spacing is
remember-
about 190 to 200 feet right now. So we're in between the 235 and the 185 right now.
Okay.
So we're going to push that as far as we can to 230.
What did you mean by restaurant layout? I didn't know.
There's a restaurant that came before us several months back in that area that's green next to 7-Eleven. And that's what engineering's comment was related to. They have a back entry to Sweetbriar Way, roughly where the red dot is.
I thought this is in lieu of the restaurant.
No, this is in addition to.
Okay.
This is on the other side of the stream.
Yep, the restaurant's still proposed there.
Okay.
I don't have any other comments. Anyone else? All right. See you back in a few weeks.
Thank y'all.
Thanks, Wes. Next, we will go to item 5. This is Tennessee Grasslands Pickleball Development, amended preliminary master development plan and revised final master development plan. Jim?
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Jim Carpenter, staff planner. Owner applicant request approval to add roughly half-acre lot zoned to MRO that currently has a house on it into the Tennessee Grasslands master plan with an amended PMDP, revised FMDP to add, once we get through all the other things, a racket sports building, 2 pavilions, and a permanent structure for pickleball. So unlike the tennis facility that's only up from November to March, this should be up year-round. Our planning staff has mostly minor comments on this. Kind of our main concern is the distance here with this pavilion to these back properties. I don't believe fires here. They had some comments as well about turnarounds and kind of the dead-end nature of the site. But planning had mostly minor comments outside of that.
Okay. Engineering, do y'all have anything to add?
Just minor comments. The sidewalk needs to be extended on Browns Lane across the front of this property. And then the way they've shown this driveway, it should be an exit only.
Oh, because of the angled parking?
Yes.
Okay.
And then that works with the driveway spacing on that.
Okay. The width of the drive aisle? Oh, because it's
The
an exit
adjacent,
only.
yeah.
Okay. Is there a member from the applicant present?
Good evening, Sam Chrisman with Pave Dawson. I'm the civil engineer on this job. We're good with comments and plan to address those and have it resubmitted. The one comment that we are requesting relief on is the extending that 6-foot sidewalk. Right now, and I don't think we have an aerial, but if you pull it up on Google Maps, that sidewalk would dead end into the adjacent neighbor's driveway, and their home is very close to the right-of-way as well and would almost dead end into their home. With the I guess the tennis courts and the golf training facility, we had installed a pedestrian crosswalk prior to the driveway for the training facility and tennis courts for pedestrian access to the west side of Browns Lane for that sidewalk. But most of the people using this 6-foot access will more than likely stop using it when they get to this area because they'll be using these facilities. And there isn't I guess an existing sidewalk north of this on the east side of Browns Lane.
I guess, I don't know if this is a question directed to Brian or to planning. Who had the comment about the sidewalk? Was it planning or engineering?
I believe we did.
Okay, is there a plan to extend sidewalk from Wood Lake down the east side of Browns Lane?
Not currently, but we did spend a lot of money putting the sidewalk down the center of Browns Lane a few years ago. And what makes this weird is, I don't know if some of the older residents in the room can address this, but when Browns Lane was widened, it caused that building or that residence that's just to the north of this to be so close to the right-of-way.
Yeah.
That's why it's going to be hard to, continue a sidewalk there. But we don't know, hopefully someday we can keep going north with that.
Well, also on the north side of that, the next property, you've got what appears to be a couple 100 foot of like the old stone wall. I mean, it's only like a foot tall, 2 foot tall, but yeah, your only option would be to put sidewalk along the back of curb. You wouldn't have a grass strip, and I think at one point that wall gets like less than 3 feet from the back of curb.
Yeah, that's why I wish we had a pay in lieu of. Looking at
Work on
you,
that.
Councilman. I mean, if this body wants to, grant that exception, they can do that. It's our recommendation that they put it in, so. Even if it's up against the back of the sidewalk, I think that would be a good compromise if they are willing to do that.
Up against the back of curb?
Back curb, yeah.
Okay. Questions, comments from the commission? I guess question for Jim. Whenever the tennis courts came through, of course, they were already there, and I think the golf facility came before us, a handful of years ago. Did fire didn't have any concerns at that time with how the site was accessed or anything like that, did they?
No, but Fire has been looking at plans a little bit more extensively in the intervening. I think the original version of this was pre-COVID, 2019 maybe. Does that sound right?
The golf facility or the tennis court?
Both.
I think the PMDP was pre-COVID, yeah, and then the golf facility was maybe 2021, something like
Yeah.
that.
Jim, can you switch to that page, the one that shows the buffer? How wide is that buffer? On the north
10.
side?
It's 10 feet. It's MRO to MRO.
Oh, so one's not required, or is it?
It's just a type 10.
Okay.
I did
Y'all
have
put a fence in?
Yeah, and then we're some type of shield or something on that side just to help with the sound.
Okay. And then the two buildings up top, those are just open air pavilions, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And the new structure will match the golf facility?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. Jim or John, you good? All right, seeing none, we'll see you back in a few weeks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we're going to go to item number 6. This is Liberty Branch Townhomes amended PMDP and revised FMDP. John, I'm going to ask you to take over for 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. I will have to recuse myself from all these.
Okay. Item number 6, Brad.
The owner and applicant request approval of an amended preliminary master development plan and revised final master development plan for Liberty Branch Townhomes to revise the architecture on 10.10 acres zoned MU mixed-use district located north of Harris Lane and east of Greenlee Boulevard. Liberty Branch currently has an approved PMDP. They had some outstanding conditions of which they have addressed mostly in this one. They've come back solely to change the architecture. And you can see here. And then we have some color. It is fairly monotone and repetitive as compared to the previously supplied architecture. Although we did not have color, it is not nearly so repetitive.
Could you go back one screen?
Yes, sir.
You'll eliminate one of my questions. It's the same question I asked on an earlier concept. It's not a continuous level roof line necessarily, is it? One more screen back. I'm sorry. You finish your presentation. I shouldn't be asking you a question.
No, this is fine. I was practically done anyway. But no, you can see in the illustration, it doesn't look like it's a continuous roof line.
Okay.
But I'll defer to engineering to any comments they may have.
Engineering?
Just as an afterthought, we asked for stop signs and stop lines onto Harris Lane. We missed that in our initial review.
We have a representative for the applicant here tonight.
David Downs, 615 Design Group. We agreed all staff comments, but I'm open to answer any questions you may have.
Can we flip back to the plan page that shows all of the units? Okay. And so just the question I was alluding to is the same question I had on an earlier project. I don't know what the topography is, but I think there's some fall on this property from one end to the other, isn't there?
Yes, sir.
Quite a bit. And since you have building unit pads, are those 6-unit pads or 4-unit pads?
I believe there's 6-unit pads.
So do they all have to be on the same elevation, or can they stair step down?
I'd have to review the architecture and the grading to answer
Okay.
that. I can get back to you on that, though.
If it's the former rather than the latter, I just really want to look at the space between the buildings and make sure that you can get proper grade.
Of course.
So, other questions from the commission? Well, seeing none, we'll see you back in a few weeks. Thanks. Item number 7, do you want to present these together or individually?
Yes.
You want to do these together?
All together.
That'd be great. 7 through 10, Avery Trace,
Great.
different phases.
Great. Yeah, the owner applicant is requesting for the final plats for Avery Trace Development, Phase 4, 5, 6, and 7. I've outlined them here. Phase 4 has 31 single-family homes. Phase 5 has 37 single-family homes. Phase 6 has 46 townhomes. Phase 7 has 41 single-family homes, total of 109 single-family homes, and 46 townhomes, total of 155 in count. It is zoned R8 PRD, which is a medium-density residential plan, residential development district. And here are the phases. So you have Phase 4, 5, 6, and 7. Most of the development, Avery Trace is almost complete. I believe we're rating right now on Phase 8. But these are the last few phases. Everything matches up to the FMDP. So there are a few minor changes, but they can be addressed before the voting meeting. That's all.
Thank you. Do we have a representative for the applicant? Sorry, hold that thought for just a minute. Engineering, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, we have a few lots that are within the 30-foot buffer, so Stormwater wanted them to kind of look at that. In Phase 5, there's 6 lots. In Phase 7, there's 1 lot. And I think that's it. So if they can kind of look at those, I don't know at this point if something changed when they did the original master layout on the buffers, but we don't need those in the lots.
Representative for the applicant.
David Downs, 615 Design Group. We agree to all staff comments, and I can go ahead and answer to the buffer question. It was our original intention for those buffer lines to be averaged, to stay outside the lots, and reviewing it, we have plenty of space to do so.
Questions from the commission?
I just have a question on Phase 7, Kentshire Drive, that ends in a cul-de-sac right now. Looks like it was a temporary cul-de-sac. Will that road continue in the future? Is that the intention?
So what they've shown on the construction plans is stopping at Station 723, and we've asked them to, or we're going to ask them to extend the curb and the sidewalk at least to that station. It won't hit the property line.
I think I've asked this before, and I know this is the final plat, but if we can maybe do some sort of a sign or something to let people know that this is not a dead-end road and not intended to be a dead-end road for
Yes.
ever and ever and ever.
We've done that before. Yeah.
Future. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments or feedback for the applicant? We'll see none. We'll see you back in a few weeks.
Thank you.
Turn it back over.
Thanks, John. Okay, next, we're going to move to item number 11. This is the Crossroads of Gallatin Phase 2 Final Master Development Plan. Charlie.
The owner and applicant is requesting approval of a final master development plan for the Crossroads of Gallatin, Phase Number 2. This is on 25.35 plus or minus acres, zoned as PGC, Planned General Commercial, located north of Harris Lane and east of Greenlee Boulevard. So this is Phase 2 of the Crossroads of Gallatin Master Plan on the northern half of the property. This was recently approved at City Council for the rezoning and preliminary master development plan. The site layout is still fairly consistent with what was presented in the PMDP that you guys saw with the out parcels and the parking. Staff had minor comments about a couple notes and things on the final master development plan. The landscaping is been more enhanced and is consistent with the PGC landscaping standards in the zoning ordinance to include enhanced landscaping around the parking areas and added landscaping islands. The architecture is consistent with the preliminary master development plan. All road-facing facades, as per the conditions of approval from the PMDP, are the 70% brick stone, and then the non-road facing sides still have that CMU brick component. Staff had other concerns about the traffic and the access, which I will let engineering talk a little bit more about in their segment, and the applicant is also present.
Thank you. Brian?
So we're still working with them on the transportation impact study, or the traffic impact study. It's not approved. Our consultant gave us some comments Friday. The applicant should be getting those today or tomorrow. And if you kind of need to know, this is equivalent to Glenbrook in size in Hendersonville. And we're looking at basically the double lefts off of Greenlee into Harris Lane and how that's going to work along the frontage there of Harris Lane. So we need to get the TID or the TIS approved before the voting meeting.
Okay. Do you think it's possible?
I believe we can.
Okay. Awesome. Brad?
Brad Snyder, CSCG. Yeah, we've reviewed the comments, nothing too major. Just like Brian said, though, we'll be coordinating with them on the traffic study to get that sorted out and get it taken care of.
Okay. Any comments from, or questions from the commission?
Did we vote on Phase 1?
We deferred it, didn't we, because of the traffic study?
Yeah,
Yeah, Phase 1 was deferred.
okay. So we would be
So
approving
will we see
Phase...
both of them at the voting meeting?
You would have to.
Okay. I think thinking back, I think the only question I had on, this is not Phase 2, but Phase 1 was the connection. We had discussions, I guess we'll go ahead and discuss it now since we're going to see it at the voting meeting. We had discussions about the sidewalk leading up to Vietnam veterans. And one of the things, I drove by there over the weekend and got to look, and there's already an ADA ramp there at the on-ramp to 386. Y'all may already know that, but I know we had discussions at the last month's work session about that.
Just about getting that up, getting
Yeah.
the sidewalk up there, making
Yeah.
that connection.
Yeah. But outside of that, I mean, this seems very consistent with what we've seen up to this point. Sounds like y'all are on track with the traffic impact study. So I think if we get that addressed, all
Also, the
Yeah, go
signage,
ahead.
I think, was the other question we had, still kind of open. We were talking about the signs and what size they were. If we
Which I
could
know
just-
we had established, I guess, what size each one was at the original PMDP. But I think there was still, as you were saying, there was still some question as to where, like, if that was the case on the FMDP.
Yeah, we don't have that in this package, the phase 2, but for phase 1, yeah, I know there's, we talked about at the PMDP, can't remember if it's the one right at the ramp is gonna be 20 feet high, and the one at Greenlee and
Paris.
would be 30.
I think it was flipped.
It was flipped, yeah.
There was added information in the resubmittal for phase 1 that you guys would see about
Okay,
the signs.
okay.
Perfect.
And then they'll have to go through a separate sign permit application for
They
those.
would still have to get sign permits, yes.
But yeah, I mean, I think as far as architecture and elevations and things like that, I think it looks great. Excited about this project. I like the enhanced landscaping that y'all have shown, which that was consistent with phase 1 too, correct? Rosemary, did you have something to say?
I'm still not sure I'm supposed to talk because I'm not the public. I
It's
am
okay.
Staff, but I don't really know where I fit in these comments. I spoke to the developer on, someone with GBT on Friday, and they're very concerned about not being able to be on the agenda at the end of August. Last Thursday, in the check print meeting, it was mentioned that engineering may request that they not be on the agenda at the end of the month. So I'm just trying to find out if the developer disagrees with engineering's interpretation or needs from the traffic study, can they still be on the agenda and y'all decide?
I think that if we did that, that would be atypical to how we've handled it in the past, because we've always required the traffic study to be approved before we've approved an FMDP.
Okay, then my question is the traffic study that engineering wants to have happen, is that because of what engineering wants to have happen on Greenlee, or because it's absolutely necessary for this project?
It's a great question.
I don't know all the specifics, Rosemary, but I do know that this is a very high traffic generator and we want to get it right.
Sure.
So having said that, I think we just, time is always against us, right? We're trying to work with the applicant to make sure that we can get this approved in a timely manner.
Okay, the timing for when they can begin construction going into the fall and winter is very touchy.
Yeah.
And we don't want to lose the opportunity for them to get under construction and open and generate sales tax revenue, which is not your concern, because you should think about money. But I don't want them to have to solve the problems that other people created.
Understood. Brad, I'm assuming that your traffic consultant's on board with working with engineering to get everything resolved prior to
Yes.
the voting meeting.
Yeah,
Okay.
we've been in discussion with our traffic consultant. And once we get the comments from engineering, we'll get those addressed and coordinate back and forth.
Our consultant gave it to us Friday. Aaron said he was going to email it out this evening or first thing in the morning.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Thanks, Brian.
Awesome. Thanks, Rosemary. Thank you, Brian. Brad, do you have any other questions or,
I do not, no, I'm good.
okay, anything else from the commission? All right, see you back in a few weeks. Thanks, Brad.
Thank you all.
Item 12, we have re-subdivision of Lot 5, Habitat for Humanity, minor subdivision plat. Brad?
The owner and applicant. The owner and applicant request approval of a two-lot minor subdivision plat, Patford Place, Habitat for Humanity on .28 acres, zoned R6, high-density residential district, located you can see property here and the submitted plat, and it's a very light, we'd like to see it darkened up. I zoomed in a bit here, but we'll go to the previous plat. This came to us as an administrative plat, since it's just a division into two properties, but the applicant would like an exception to the 10-foot PUDs Currently, this plat shows a 3-foot along this border because there's so much right-of-way over here, and a 10-foot along the north, but otherwise the PUDs are absent around the plat.
Engineering.
Yeah, they just need to ask for the variance to get rid of the PUDs, and by replatting this, they will void, vacate, and supersede the existing PUDs that are on Lot 5 when it was originally platted.
Okay, do you see any issues with that?
No, because they've given a 3-foot PUDE for a 6-inch water line that's in a 60-foot right-of-way, and I don't anticipate any drainage issues around the perimeter of the lot, so.
Okay. Awesome. Any other questions or comments from the commission?
How would their driveway connect for 5B?
I believe it is obviously onto Pafford Place, but I think that was actually one of the, we saw this FMDP, but I guess just prior to you stepping on the commission, and I believe that was actually one of the things that we discussed whenever the FMDP came before us.
Yeah, there is a note on the plat that the existing lot here will be removed, and it will connect on Pafford.
Yeah, so is it still the intent that the existing homes stay on the front lot, or are they tearing that down?
I believe that our intent is to keep that existing home in the front.
Okay, so then they just tie it to Pafford Place, which is super wide. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Do you have, oh, yes, we still have the applicant.
Hi.
Yes.
Allison Turner, representing Greenwood Design. This is just, we've already, we had everything we thought done, but then these easements came up as we were trying to get the final plat signed off on, which we submitted in April. And so this is just an effort to clean that piece up. Everything else has been, we've been through this process before. This is just to request those easements. But because the easements would encroach on the very, very small lot, buildable space, and so that was part of our reasoning. And there's no drainage in this area, and all the driveways are to be connected to Pafford Place. So house is to remain. I think the shed has to be relocated on the site, but other than that, it should be pretty standard. And we kept the 60-foot right-of-way because it was too much trouble to get it relinquished.
Abandoned, yeah.
So that's where we are.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? All right. Seeing none, see you back in a few weeks. Thank you. Next, we move to item 13 and I guess 14. Brian?
So I'm sure you've heard the word moratorium kind of floating around in the wind here in Gallatin as of late. Council has voted and passed a resolution requesting that the Planning Commission consider the potential costs and benefits of the City of Gallatin implementing a 12-month moratorium on new applications to the Planning Department for the construction of new apartment complexes. The Gallatin Municipal Planning Commission is to follow all procedures and notice requirements necessary to amend the zoning ordinance. Specifically, they ask that you consider whether whether a moratorium on new planning applications for apartments is warranted, and 2, if warranted, the appropriate parameters of the moratorium, i.e. length of time and the affected areas. Any potential moratorium would be for new applications only and would not affect any previously approved plans. They request that the Planning Commission consider this and return a response back to them so that they can consider your feelings on or your recommendation on the September 8th City Council Committee meeting. So we've got basically this month to consider this and provide them a response according to their resolution request. I know in the process, city staff, department heads were requested to give some memos to the council regarding different moratorium concerns. And of course, the scope has sort of changed over the course of the 3 different months that they were looking at it. So it started in May, and it had originally been sort of open-ended on construction, you know, not really sure what that meant. So a lot of departments responded based on an overall construction moratorium. And then that sort of got whittled down to multifamily, and then it got further whittled down to apartments. So I believe at this point in time, that's all you're being asked to consider is a moratorium on apartments and not on overall construction or multifamily development. Just want to make sure that we clarify that that would not apply to townhomes, for example, because even though we consider that sort of a multifamily type development, it was not part of the anticipated request, I guess. I'll give you a few thoughts that I at least included in my memo. I did ask and or open it up to any of the other department heads in our recent department head meeting if they wanted to come and share some of their thoughts about it with you. Just to give you kind of a feeling from their perspective that they'd be more than willing to, or more than able to do that during this process. I believe Rosemary wants to speak to hers. I'm not sure, but I'll let her do that if she so desires. But from planning perspective, I've written it a few different ways to the city council. I do see a moratorium on apartments as something that could hurt the city as far as our progress is concerned. I look at multiple different things when I say that. One of my arguments is, you know, business follows rooftops, jobs follow rooftops, right? So apartments are a form of rooftop. They're not, a rooftop per unit kind of thing. But when you bring in residential development, you also then encourage more jobs to show up. And I know the jobs here in Gallatin are very important. We want to see those jobs, right, so that we can grow our tax base. And so when we slow down our residential growth, we are going to also see a slowdown in commercial growth because they do their metrics based on our growth and our population numbers. And if that's not growing, then they may say, I want to go somewhere where it's growing, or I need a place that has more population. And so I'm waiting, or I'm going to go find a different location. Another one of the concerns that I have is just jobs in general. When you take away a certain aspect of development within our city, those people who work in those industries may have to go elsewhere. They may have to lose a job, or they may have to travel a lot farther for their work. So that's something to consider. We do have a number of already approved units, so I don't know that we will even see an impact in a moratorium stance, because there are so many already approved units on the books that could still come forward during this moratorium time that, and that's kind of how it's happened previously. You've got, the past prior 10 years, we've only maybe seen a few apartment complexes come through. most of the ones that have recently been built were approved prior to that. They've been on the books for quite a while, and so they finally came online and they're being built now. But that's because the market demanded them, right? They finally got to a point where apartments were ready to be built, and the market is saying, hey, we need this now, let's go ahead and build it. And in my opinion, it's never good to be messing with how the market works. You know, when you've got a market that's growing and that's happy, you know, it's going to respond in time with what the new needs are, right? But if we mess with it, then it's kind of like, you know, the federal government stepping in and doing something when it shouldn't, you know, and messing up things that don't need to be messed with, right? So from that standpoint, I don't recommend that the city enact a moratorium. Of course, we do have traffic, right? Traffic is a concern here in Gallatin, and a lot of people moving here more and more every day. Some of them from out west, you know, just depends. But as we get more and more population, we are going to see more and more traffic, and we are working as a city on updating our master transportation plan. We're currently working on our zoning ordinance, so that will hopefully help to reduce the number of developments that are not good for the city. We're trying to address multiple different levels of how development occurs with that zoning ordinance. The subdivision regulations are in current process of being updated as well. Of course, we recently only approved our comprehensive plan, and the comprehensive plan does speak to development and how it should move forward. And we're also going to be looking at doing an update to that here in the next little bit to kind of align with the zoning ordinance and how that's been developed over the past a couple of years. I mean, I could go on and list a number of different reasons why I don't think this is a good idea. And I don't know what other people's opinions are necessarily. I know from talking to the department heads that most of them were not in favor of seeing that, and or they proposed data that indicated that, you know, it would hurt the city financially and or in other ways, potential jobs in the building department. One of the big things from the building department that we heard, our building official had talked to Mount Juliet, who recently enacted a moratorium, and they had indicated to them that after enacting this moratorium on apartments, they had 3 major retailers back out of developing within their city. So big boxes, you know, major retailers that would have been coming but decided to not come. And I fear if the city goes down that road, we may be looking at some of the same things. You know, we already struggle, even after getting an approved plan, say a hotel, we've got multiple hotels in the city that have been approved but never built, right? It's difficult enough to get businesses across that finish line to actually get built. But you enact something like this and it's going to hurt the city. So I'll stop there. I know this discussion could go for a long time if we wanted to. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it back to you, Mr. Chair, or allow Rosemary to say a few words. And
Mayor.
I know Mayor's also raising her hand.
I just want to kind of help kind of frame the discussion, Brian, because, and I appreciate what you said. I do kind of differ with you on one thing that is traditional, and that is that the jobs typically follow the rooftops. I think in Middle Tennessee, this isn't specific to Gallatin at all, y'all. We have so many jobs coming to the Middle Tennessee area, and I think as Ms. Bates can confirm, we are challenged with the workforce, and the workforce challenge follows the housing challenge. And so I think in this case, housing is about fulfilling the jobs that are coming to our area to have places for people to live. But what I wanted to say about the moratorium in general is that I understand why it comes to the Planning Commission, but I'm very, very challenged. I don't know if legal wants to weigh in. I won't put you on the spot if you don't, about the process, because my understanding has always been that a moratorium is for the purpose of, a moratorium has two purposes. One, because you know that you don't have the infrastructure to sustain some kind of development, or two, to do a study to figure out what your capacity is. Now, it's become politically popular to do moratoriums because we all know people look around and say, oh, there's too many apartments here. One of the first things that I kind of ran into when I came into office was some question as to how we could balance single family and multifamily. And we got all the way to the federal government, who basically said, no, you're toying with fair housing standards, and that would not be appropriate for a government to intervene in. And I said, oops, sorry, okay, I understand better now. But you know, I do worry about that piece of it too. I worry about the affordability piece. I worry about the message it sends, because even though we're seeing it done a lot politically in Middle Tennessee, and that's why our attorney has said, you know, a year is probably the max that you can get away with without someone trying to take legal action against you. I don't know that it would harm Gallatin in some way, except that it does send the message, hey, you know, this government is heavy-handed, this government is interfering with capitalism, this government is not really respecting property rights. That's the message that I fear it sends. And not, or that we don't have the things that I spoke of. We don't have the infrastructure, or we don't know what kind of infrastructure we have. If you look around, and so you're right, apartments and traffic are the #1 complaints. But when you look at the amount of traffic that is coming into our city, that travels through our city every day via 21, 25, and 31, I am not real sure that we could not do a single thing and our traffic could continue to get worse. And so at least when we have that inner city investment, we do have road improvements that help us have better navigation within the streets that we do have. And I have, in the last several weeks, had the occasion to be in a lot of the cities around Middle Tennessee, and I maintain that I can find more routes around Gallatin to avoid traffic than I've been successful in finding in other cities. So I do think that's a good thing. But I really do wish that we had a better understanding of, you know, what are we supposed to offer other than just our opinion as to whether or not Gallatin needs a moratorium on multifamily. Like, what are our responsibilities to say anything more than our feelings on something, or respond politically? I don't know.
Mayor, I don't mind being put on the spot too much as part of the job. With your statements are correct that, yeah, this is a recommending body, and in part of the recommendation, you really need to say what the reason for the recommendation, which is either we know of an infrastructure issue that we need to address before, and that apartments may be exasperated, or we think there might be, and we need to study it to be sure, and we want to keep any damage that could be happening from continuing until we find out for sure. So if you can't say, well, we don't have the water capacity or the sewer capacity, then what really needs to be done is a recommendation to study whichever issues you think might be there, and
Create a plan to resolve.
Yes. And then the other thing that is kind of related to that, the resolution sending it to this body from the city council, you know, it's a little vague, and part of that is because, you know, this body is to have some freedom in their recommendation, which, you know, council can take it and disagree with, because, you know, you might decide to, when you read these types of moratoriums from other cities, they normally will define exactly what is having the moratorium placed on. So they'll say, you know, apartment buildings as defined as. So we might have a problem with these large developments going up with several buildings, but you might not have a problem with a primarily commercial space that has 2 apartment buildings on the 2nd floor. So you might write that definition in a way that doesn't include that. That is to give you the freedom to form a recommendation that you think actually fits for Gallatin, which then obviously council can take and say, well, we disagree. We think even those apartments over top the commercial space should be included too. And they can disregard that. That is their right. But we wanted to write it in a way that let you actually look at the needs for Gallatin in this.
Mr. Allen, I actually find that really, really helpful because it actually gives me an idea where you could possibly balance that and say, of over a certain number of units or something, because I do see that has created hardships, particularly with us not being able to control the timing of them. And so when you have these very, very large complexes come online at one time, it not only impacts our roads, it can impact a single school. We've only really had that happen one time, and that was a long time ago. But I do think that potentially maybe there's something in that, because, a small multifamily development is not going to have the same impact as a very, very large one. So that's actually an idea. But beyond that, really, traffic is the only thing that we can justify. And I figure, can you justify multifamily? Yet we just had the discussion about a pretty massive shopping center that is going to create more traffic throughout the day versus peak hours. So I just struggle with everything about it, and I think a lot of that is just my core beliefs about, limited government, property rights, and capitalism. So.
I got a question for Brian. Do you know approximately, well, first, how long was Mount Juliet's moratorium for?
I don't know the answer. I'd have to research it.
Okay. And approximately how many apartments do we already have approved?
I have the answer on that. As far as total multifamily units, not separately broken out for apartments, there are 4,987 multifamily. A portion of those are townhomes, and I would say it's probably about half and half. But I can get you a more defined number on that.
Yeah, that
but
was my question.
those are again already approved and on the books, so they wouldn't be affected by this.
Well, I would have a suggestion. If this moratorium goes into effect, maybe when somebody comes looking, that we point that out, that we've got 4,000 units already approved.
Well, I would also offer that I think the current interest rate is creating some challenges for some of these approved projects, because if you read the news, there's a lot of lending challenges with, people having being able to put the capital together with, and just some fears on the parts of lending institutions. So, again, that's why I'm for limited government, because there's enough.
Rosemary, 1 second.
Challenges.
Ms. Latasha.
I guess my question is, when I read through this, we're talking about a lot of opinions, but where's the factual basis demonstrating the need for a moratorium? That's what I'm missing from this whole conversation. Even when everything Brian said, the mayor said, everything that's been said is still not presented that basis that we need to start with. So I understand the city council possibly been interested in this, but that interest needs to have more factual basis before we even entertain the conversation we're having right now. So we need to be given that information for us to make a recommendation, because right now, all I'm hearing is nothing. Yeah. I'm not hearing any factual basis, any actual reason that Gallatin needs to do this at this point in time, and that's where we have to start.
Well, and infrastructure deficiency is the justifiable position for a moratorium, and we know that we don't have an infrastructure deficiency, so that's why I feel very challenged with this, and I think
that's definitely
reinforcing that
for me, because if you tell me what this infrastructure deficiency is, that's based on facts, not on opinion, because it takes me 5 or 10 minutes to get from point A to point B, then I'm willing to entertain this conversation and actually really talk about it. But right now, I've heard nothing that basis of reason to have a moratorium by law. And so I'm always going to come from that legal aspect.
We don't
because
even
I
have
haven't heard
draft
anything.
language.
And I'm going to follow y'all on the legal aspect, as I like to do.
Rosemary?
Thank you. I would like to echo what Latisha is saying, which is my big concern is, what are we studying specifically? Because we don't have hardcore evidence of any infrastructure deficiency, whether it be water treatment, sewer treatment. The only deficiency we have at this point in time is not our fault, and that is the northern part of Nexus will not have electricity until TVA builds out its transformer line. So, but we only have anecdotal stories about it takes longer to get across town. It, on the one hand, you know, you have the public out there, why don't we have these nice stores? Why don't we have these nice restaurants? Well, retail looks at the density within a 3-mile radius. And some of what is coming to Gallatin, like the shopping center that Crossroads is on your, was on your agenda earlier tonight, they are looking at the current rooftops, but they're also anticipating the continued growth. Yes, is it a guessing game depending on what happens with the economy? Absolutely. We don't see it slowing any time for Gallatin or Middle Tennessee, or in some ways, most of the Southeast. But all we have heard is we just think it's bad. We think this is bad. We think that's bad. So I just want to know where the actual information, the factual data is that shows we're deficient and we need the moratorium. On the other side of that, there is also this contradiction in we need more, quote unquote, affordable housing. Well, stopping apartments is not creating more affordable housing. Now, I prefer to call it income-related housing because we don't have inventory that allows someone making $45,000 a year to buy a home and build equity and live the American dream. We have high-end properties, but almost all of those are your executive level housing, as sometimes it's called. Almost all of those lots in Fairview and Foxland are built out. There may be a few that aren't. But in this moratorium, are we going to address income-related housing? Because you're eliminating it when you eliminate apartments. And even apartments are not affordable for most people who are under a certain level of income, and some of them are considered low to moderately impoverished. And I hate that nomenclature has been umbrellaed on people who are doing the jobs that we don't want to do because we don't want to get paid $20 an hour, but we expect them to be there in the factories and at the fast food, tossing French fries out the window to you and you know, doing the checkout at Walmart and all those other stores. So we continue to create situations where we're pushing people out of Gallatin who work here, including city employees. So I have yet to hear, I'm not necessarily saying a moratorium is evil or bad. There just has been no information provided that is statistically data proven that we need one. So that's, I thought, what Susan, the city attorney, and Ben, well, Susan at the council meetings has been trying to tell the council, why are you doing this? You have to have some facts to base it on, not just that you don't like them now. And even if you give it a year, can they figure out in a year what really needs to be studied if they've not collected the facts before they make the decision on the moratorium? Which I guess you're a recommending body, so I don't know how far you have to go with that too. And I suppose you could recommend something and the council could go, no, 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 we don't like that, but we'll just move on. You know, we reject their thoughts and ideas, which again, that's not necessarily a bad thing. You can agree to disagree. So the lack of specificity into the public and developers and retailers and commercial entities and manufacturing who might want to come here is, well, they don't know what the heck they're doing. They don't even know what they're talking about. So how does that affect my ability to have a workforce or a place to live? So those are my concerns. And then some of the information that was presented by department heads appeared to be shoved aside because certain department heads were against the moratorium. And in fact, some department heads say it benefits their department because you have a more dense area. So instead of going a half a block every time you're picking up a trash can, well, in the case of apartments, they usually have dumpsters, so we're not even responsible for that. And the other point I want to make to you is that apartments pay a commercial property tax rate. They are not a residential property tax rate. So that's another difference as opposed to townhomes. So I'm just throwing out some of my concerns about the job market, what signal it sends, and again, no specificity. And if the traffic problems are in state routes, we cannot make the state fix a darn thing. And I'm struggling really hard with another project, and they are just not having it. So if you think you're going to fix a problem on a state road, think again, unless the city wants to do it and pay for it. So I just want you to consider all the...
Oh, I was just going to follow up on what you said about the electric situation on the northern side of town. That, to me, is a utility deficiency forced moratorium without anybody doing anything legislatively within the city. That's just a fact. We can't serve. Anybody that's looking to invest there, they are made aware of that. They will get service whenever it becomes available to them. And so that already limits us in that portion of town for certain. You know, I think when you were speaking, Ms. Bates, you kind of made an argument that we could do a study for traffic, but what's the remedy for the traffic? Because it's going to involve the 386.
Well, what I meant was do a study to see if there even is a traffic problem.
Oh, okay.
My understanding is that there's some roads where the traffic count has dropped because of the outer roads that have been built to get people around the city. Part of what Albert Gallatin Extension has done, which is exactly what we anticipated and hoped it would do, it has removed traffic from certain other city streets. So the traffic count, according to what I'm told, although I haven't seen the numbers myself from TDOT or engineering, most of these are on state roads, is the traffic counts have actually dropped, even if it feels like you can't get across town at 3:30 in the afternoon when you run to Walmart and pick up groceries.
Well, and 31 out here and 25 out here is going to become busier because the people coming through the town.
Right.
But you know, the moratorium deficiency would be in a situation like with the electric, where you could declare a moratorium because you had a sewer failure or something. We know that's not it. We could have the moratorium to do the study, but I have always kind of felt like that is for cities where they don't necessarily control all their own utilities, or they don't have the traffic counts or the grasp of what their utility capacities actually are, or their utility capacities are actually being shared with other communities which are beyond their control. And therein lies where I think a moratorium for the purpose of a study makes very, very good sense. But we're very fortunate here because we know what our capacity is. And that, you know, we're able to deal with those things as they come to us, whether it's multifamily or single family or industry or whatever it may be.
I'll add one more thing. I recall from about a year ago when I had approached you all and the city council about a possible moratorium on rezoning as we approached the adoption of ZOCO. And I know some of the members on the Planning Commission are new, so they weren't here for that discussion. But that had garnered quite a bit of, you know, concern from the Planning Commission, at least, that we would be kind of putting a black mark on the city if we, you know, said, hey, we're not going to accept your application for rezoning at this point in time because we want to show a sign that we're open for business, right? And If we're putting a moratorium on things, no matter what it is, I think that does send that message that we're not open for business on at least some things. We haven't even gotten into the discussion of the data centers, which is a different discussion, I believe, but, I mean, we can move on to that piece if you want, or if you have more to go on in this, let's keep going.
I'll try and be quiet after this, but I think one of the first things I said was I really don't think that, Gallatin would, be squashed if we did this kind of thing. But what I said about all the other things, I really don't see a lot of proposals for multifamily coming before us based upon, the number that are in the pipeline. And it is this body that has a lot of weight on whether something gets approved along with the city council. I have, seen some multifamily get approved that I was not supportive of at the council level. It's been quite some time ago. But a lot of what's come through here has been already entitled or part of a bigger plan that helped it make sense for all of it. So I think when it's been part of a plan, that's kind of increased our numbers of apartments. There's 2 complexes here that I just really wish had not been approved, but that's in retrospect, and that's a lot of numbers that would have not existed in difficult places. But I think we're getting some, industry and not industry, but restaurants and retailers as a result nonetheless. But just a reminder that ultimately the authority still lies with what gets approved and what doesn't.
I'll piggyback that. I know it's been said multiple times, until the city's ready to complete and perform the necessary studies that it takes to even entertain a moratorium, then we're really just talking in a circle. But at the same time, the mayor said it, since I've sat on the planning commission, I can only think of 2 apartment projects that were approved at the council level that weren't already entitled. And I think that what should be happening is that we should be spending more time on the requirements of what those apartments look like as opposed to entertaining a moratorium. Because the amount of time and effort that went into actually making sure that the product we were getting was a good product was minimal. And I know for a fact on one of them, I believe this body denied it, or at least voted to recommend denial. So it's really hard on top of all things, especially with the traffic. Everyone talks about traffic, but like I look at the map that engineering provided, all but one of these are on a state route. And like Rosemary said, I know engineering meets with TDOT on a regular basis to discuss this stuff. It just, because it's a state route, it takes longer. Now, hopefully, whenever they expand 386 and do that work, it'll help relieve some things. But if we're just going to come up here and have no draft language for us to look at and us just talk back and forth about whether or not this is a good idea, and no study's been performed for us to look at, then I don't know what we're doing.
Well, I think the city is willing to conduct studies. The problem is, what would we study? Because we know what our capacities are. The only study that could happen would be on traffic. We know what those numbers are, but say you wanted to have some city which would just be a ridiculous even pursuit, but you wanted to have some standard where it never, during peak times reached however they rate it, D or F or whatever. You could have that as a goal, but I'm not sure that would stand up for the purpose of a moratorium, because peak hours a lot of times in a lot of places hit those things. I keep interrupting you.
You're good. No, it's fine.
I was going to say,
Yes, ma'am.
just kind of going, on the traffic, or engineering did do a study, and they looked at the 2025 average daily traffic and compared that to level of service D, which is how things are kind of rated. And in here, there's 5 that are below the level of service. And again, those are all on state routes. So it's like, well, again, how is that really I don't know what else we would study about traffic. That's just my opinion. Also in here, it did mention that the Gallatin Master Transportation Plan was scheduled to be updated. There's a schedule in here. Is that still kind of, or could we find out before the next meeting if?
It's in progress. That schedule seems to have been delayed over the course of the past little bit that it's been in the works.
I know when
I
we
would
prioritize
anticipate it
projects.
getting stretched out further than what that schedule may say.
Yes, sir.
I'm always really afraid of unintended consequences when you go in there and try to do surgery with a hammer. What about a situation like somebody has a previously approved PMDP on an apartment, and we say, well, that was previously approved, and then they come back and they make a minor or major amendment to that significantly changes this. Did this automatically shut that down, any amendments to a previously approved PMDP? Because almost everything that comes back that's been sitting on the books for 3 or 4 years, when it comes back, it's going to have some amendments to the PMDP. Things have changed.
I mean, without legal weighing in, I would say that it could very much affect that. But it would not affect their original entitlement, but it could affect their
Any changes?
any changes.
I'm just, what was it? Will Rogers said the U.S. Congress, or the U.S. is safest when Congress is in recess. I'm just afraid that passing something blunt like this is going to have a lot of consequences. And I know you don't mess with supply and demand. I have a lot of workers that have trouble finding housing. You shut down apartments. I don't know what the entry price is for an entry home right now.
435.
$435?
Average right now for entry level.
Well, let's say you can count
Average
that.
age of first home ownership is now 40. And whereas you and I, when we bought a home, we were paying 1 to 2 times the average annual income for a starter home. Kids today are paying 6 to 7 times an average income. And the apartments in Gallatin that are for rent right now, I guarantee you the lowest rent is $600, $700, $800 more than what an average home bought 10 years ago in Gallatin pays in mortgage. So, I mean, those are kind of some facts related around the impact.
If you shut down apartments, the starter home price automatically goes up, does it not? But anyway, if council's wanting us to validate a feeling, I don't want any part of that. If they want us to validate a problem or a concern, then I think they're looking at the wrong people. They need to get a professional to look at, do we indeed have an infrastructure deficiency? So I don't want to validate a feeling.
Just wanted to jump in, and I feel the need to probably research this more, but I would think that if they already have an approved project, if it was something that it wasn't adding the number of units, I think you wouldn't be prevented from approving an amendment. Like, let's say they were moving some green space from here to there, but it doesn't actually change. You know, if they go from 4 buildings to wanting 9 buildings, I believe this would stop it. But if it's more of just the layout or adding some more parking here or there, I think that you could still amend something that's already been approved.
So what would the dividing line be? The difference between a major and a minor amendment?
I think that would be where you would start to question it more deeply, at least.
But also an increase in the number of units would definitely, and of course, that is one of the criteria for a major amendment, but any increase in the number of units would be a automatic.
Circulation, density, generally use, but those are the 3 litmus tests. But
let's say they were trying to do an amendment to the landscaping buffer requirement. I don't think that would be prevented from this moratorium.
No, but I can see plenty of previously approved PMDPs that would have a change in their access point or circulation because everything around them has changed. So whereas they thought they might be aligning this exit, ingress, egress point right here, and now something else has been developed that's not aligned with it, they have to shift their plan. Technically, that's a major amendment to the PMDP, and that would shut it down. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but
I think you're thinking right. The only other two things I'll add is one, I mean, we spent a lot of time looking at the comprehensive plan that we approved back in 2023. And one of the main things that we discussed in moving toward adopting that was whether or not we wanted compact growth or sprawl. And this type of development is compact along the, now, here's the thing, and this is one of the things that we specifically discussed prior to adopting this, is whenever we first got our vision map from the consultant we were working with, it looked like a perfect bullseye with downtown. But that's not what Gallatin looks like. You have the major thoroughfare of Highway 31, you have the major thoroughfare of Big Station Camp Boulevard, you have the major thoroughfare of 386 and 109. And so you have to add those infrastructure corridors to your vision if you want compact growth, not sprawl. If you want sprawl, then you'll see likely the same amount of units, just across 3 times the size of the city area and miles of extra infrastructure for water and sewer that the city has to take care of.
More traffic, because people are covering more territory.
And the only other thing is, Brian, you brought up the last moratorium that we entertained. I believe that was a year ago. It was August. And that was for the sole purpose of getting the zoning code adopted. And it's still not adopted.
Right.
So that's all I'll say.
I'd like to add just one thing. I don't want anybody to leave this meeting or hear publicly that there's an issue with electricity because of Gallatin Department of Electricity. That substation in Nexus, if it's not ready to go online, it soon will be, and they will have to be taking care of it and maintaining it until TVA has a line in. So the problem is not Gallatin Department of Electricity. I just don't want anybody to think that they're holding anything up. They are not. So, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Rosemary.
So if you want, we can move on to item 13, or item 14, I think, which is the moratorium on data centers.
I guess, yeah, that's my first question is what's the basis of this?
So a month or two ago, it was brought up in a council meeting, just concerns that, if a data center shows up, there could be concerns about water usage and electrical usage and, the drain on the city that a data center could bring may cause a negative impact to the city of Gallatin. And so there, and then on top of that, you look at industrial zoning where a data center might be proposed to go. And that's not something even that would require going through city council for an approval. Or possibly even, depending on the size,
Less than 50,000.
through planning commission. If it's less than 50,000 square feet, it could be a staff approval and never appear before one of these boards.
Is that surviving the new code change? The 50,000 feet threshold?
Yes.
Okay.
So, I mean, that was a thought that, people were a little concerned about, and Rosemary's standing up. She kind of spoke to it back when the concern got brought up. And, that to me is a different issue than the apartment moratorium. In that sense, you're looking at trying to protect the city from a possible major drain on, utilities.
So here,
but
before Rosemary starts, I want to chime in here. So with every development that gets submitted to the city of Gallatin, that developer or consultant who's working on that project has to submit for availability to the local municipality, which in our case is us, is the city of Gallatin. So for water and sewer, or Gallatin Electric, or if it's TVA, or if it's Cumberland Electric, Either one, you have to submit for availability with that municipality and that jurisdiction.
And they usually do that before they submit a plan because they don't want to waste their time or money. And then TVA, which my argument is always we look at all industries with the same concerns because we can have some industries that aren't data centers, they're larger water users or larger electric users. But just FYI, if any industry is using more than 5 megawatts of power, they're going to require, TVA is going to require a study, not us. Sure. And I know that Ms. Bates has bumped into some things already where somebody has called and they have some concept for a data center that they want to power a certain kind of way, and we've run them along because it's not something that we're going to dedicate our resources to.
Yes.
So.
And the only thing I'll add is once they go through that availability request, if there's requirements that that developer has to, I guess, adhere to and construct so that their project can come to the city, it's on them. And so we have, what, one data center? It's a big one.
We have one that is open and operating. We have one that has been empty since it was construction completed 5 or 6 years ago. They can't find a tenant.
Okay. But is that product a viable product that if a data center did not want to go in there, they could have someone else go in there?
If the owner of that particular building and property were willing to sell it, we could have put a business in it 10 times already. Yeah.
The other thing is you have the data center we do have decided to go on one of the largest properties in Gallatin. And not only that, but the amount of stuff, I'll just say stuff, that developer did in doing that and in putting that product there was mind-blowing. The amount of charity that they gave to the city, the amount of buffer that they gave to the property, I had never seen anything like it. So
people keep reporting that it covers 900 acres. It doesn't. The actual footprint of the developed space, whether it's parking or buildings and roads, is less than a third of the entire acreage of the property. Much of it is being farmed with row crops, and the rest is being left fallow in its natural state when they acquired.
Pollinator garden.
They added, yes, and they are, yes. And beyond the charity part, they're also adding pollinator gardens at all the middle schools. But the bigger, I just want to make it clear, and I've said this to the council, as economic development, my office, and this is our choice, is we are not pursuing data centers. If they call, I very nicely try to tell them, you are on your own. You're not getting any help. We have one, and we're perfectly happy. The challenge, though, is that the more people who complain about them who are using AI to generate political pictures or fun pictures. Everybody, let's do the new AI generated thing where we're all doing our interview for
holding candy canes
or whatever. There's that new thing going around where people sit down and I'm getting ready for my interview about whatever. I don't know where that comes from. But every time you're doing that and posting that on social media, your banks use AI and data centers. You use them. Every time you open your computer and do something off of your desktop that goes to the internet, you are creating a need for a data center. So throw out your technology if you don't like them. Quit using it. You can't be hypocritical about that. Our data center is very transparent. It is not the largest water user in the city of Gallatin. It does use electricity, but that was negotiated and acquired before any of this other situation with electricity happened. They didn't steal somebody's electricity. They acquired it in the business manner at which TVA, and they have a direct feed. They're not pulling from Gallatin's available electricity and electric grid. My bigger concern about data centers, and there was a story about this today, and I brought this up before, is not that you might have a data center. is it going to have diesel-fueled jet engines and noisy, smelly power? We did have the one that has not had any interest and no tenants came and looked at using natural gas-fueled power cells. I have not done enough haven't found enough independent information about whether those are quiet, whether they have any environmental impact. But my bigger concern is because of the power from TVA, and I'm not bashing TVA, they're fabulous partners, that people are going to start using these alternative energy products in a way that we would not appreciate. So I don't even know if the new zoning ordinance talks about that, or even it has to be addressed in the zoning ordinance. But I think we need to be looking out for those alternative power sources that may be negatively impactful.
And remember one time we had a hydrogen one that would, of course, use a way lot of water.
A lot of water, yeah.
I'm not speaking for TVA, but considering the issues that we all hear about in the news, I would be shocked if, we saw a lot of hyperscale data center activity in the southeast until someone actually deployed the first mini reactors to run them.
Yeah.
I think that's, and I was actually at a thing today with Governor Lee, and they were talking about the nuclear efforts that the state of Tennessee is making, and so that could be the future, and that would alleviate the power concerns that so many people have related to that. Water won't always be a concern. I know that Meta, for those of you who don't know, is they have a pledge that they are going to be water positive by the year 2030. And the article in the Tennessean this weekend, which I was interviewed for that, but I don't think they included anything from us. Maybe it's going to be multiple whatever. But they were talking about the water usage, and apparently the site here in Gallatin is much more water efficient than a lot of the other even smaller facilities across the country. So we were glad of that. But I expect data centers over time to become more energy efficient, more water efficient, more space efficient, all of the things. So.
And they do have those ability to do the rapid deployment buildings, but like all technology, a server, maybe when I've seen them in Meta, they're about as big as the top of this podium and maybe about that tall, but your phones used to be like bricks, your cell phones. So as technology improves, as the mayor said, the space, something's going to shrink, whether it's the actual hardware and the housing that it's in. And again, I'm not as concerned about a moratorium on data centers because we can't handle one right now. I mean, you can do the moratorium, but unless they are going to use under 5 megawatts of power, which is going to be like an itty-bitty data center, basically maybe where the city servers might sit for a year or two. It's just, I also think, and this is not a conspiracy theory, and I'm going to say it, because we've had meetings with people who sit in the rooms where these things are discussed, and we're not allowed in those rooms, but there is a certain somewhat credible belief that there is another country who's driving this freak out scare thing because they want all of the data centers. They want to control that information. I'd rather have it in the United States controlling it than in China. That's just me. I think the Chinese people are probably lovely people. Don't know so much about their government.
I got a call from someone that said, thank the Gallatin City Council for helping our adversaries. I thought that was interesting. I did have a question for you, Ms. Pates, because I think it might be interesting for people and also to set kind of the record straight. Now, it may have been in this article or I may have seen it elsewhere, but the comment was that, Meta was still under construction and was going to be 12 buildings, and so I thought you might want to clearly address
No.
the accurate status, and you might want to
Thank
talk
you.
about what happened with the rapid deployment building.
So initially, when Meta came in, they guaranteed 2 buildings. They guaranteed the capital H-shaped building with 2 data halls. That was their guarantee. The site plan indicated they might build up to 6 data halls. They cut back on the number of data halls. They have 3 right now, and they are building a 4th. And it's closer to completion than not. The rapid deployment building, they have chosen not to build, although I kind of really like that one. But there are 4 data halls. Within those 4 data halls, they divide them into spaces, and that's where this number 12 is coming. There are not 12 buildings. There will not be 12 buildings. There's not enough space for 12 buildings. So don't think that all of that farmland is covered with a concrete or tilt-up wall building. It's not. Those 12 data sections are in right now the 3 or 4 data halls, and then they're done. Now, could they come back down the road? Yes, but they would also have to be concerned about obtaining more electricity from TVA. So that's one of the reasons their rapid deployment building is not coming online. They're not going to do it here because they have so much guaranteed power, and they've got to live within that parameter until TVA finds a way to add power to the grid.
Okay.
Did that answer your question, Mayor? Oops, yeah.
Does anyone else have anything to add?
I just want to clarify, the request from City Council is that you consider a 12-month moratorium on this one as well. And the language that they had basically said to consider potential costs and benefits of the City of Gallatin implementing a 12-month moratorium on new data centers and determine whether the following areas should be studied during the moratorium: electrical grid capacity and infrastructure impacts, water consumption and wastewater system impacts, traffic and roadway impacts, environmental impacts to air, waterways, and groundwater, noise and other environmental concerns, and, emergency service demands, appropriate zoning classifications, buffering and setback requirements, impacts on agricultural land, neighborhoods, and community character, long-term economic and infrastructure implications, and any additional regulations necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of Gallatin citizens. So, I mean, that's a mouthful, but.
City Council wrote that?
But how are those considerations any different than how we should look at any kind of industry, in my opinion?
I mean, that's like an active thing we should be doing.
Everything, yeah.
Quick question. You said 50,000 square foot was the threshold. Do we know typically what size a data center would be? I know that's probably a hard question.
That's going to be up to the person trying to do it. I mean, if you tell them, hey, you can do less than 50, then they're going to try to go right under that so that they might be able. But I mean, the meta data center is much bigger than that.
50,000 total, so they can't like split the building up into multiple 48,000 square foot buildings. Anything over 50,000 feet would come to Planning Commission.
Do we have a definition of what we consider a data center?
Not in the current zoning ordinance. We do have a definition in the new proposed ZOCO. I can pull it out if you'd like, but of course that's not adopted yet. It's very generic, doesn't give you a whole lot. It just basically tells you that it's a big building for storing data. Data center says it's a facility that stores networked computer servers typically used by organizations for the remote storage, processing, or distribution of large amounts of electronic data. So very generic, doesn't get into any specifics as far as size or, other types of things, but, yeah.
Anyone else? Any announcements, other business?
Yeah, I have an announcement. I think it would fall under announcements. In 3 weeks, Tiffany, you will need to handle the ones we handled tonight, items 7 through 10. Sorry about that when it was thrown on me. My company's doing landscaping in Avery Trace. Didn't know until I saw the image, and then I had to go verify that. I'll need to recuse myself on that. It was the Avery Trace, 7 through 11.
7 through 10?
Yeah. Yeah, as soon as it came up on screen, I said, oh, that looks familiar. Sorry.
Okay.
Other than that, we don't have any other announcements.
Okay. We will adjourn. Thanks, everyone. I got a question for you.